Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. I'm Zerbraxi. Alright, I have a confession to make, I gotta be honest. I've not heard very good things about Star Fox Command. Like, not at all. Most of the things I've heard are genuinely terrifying. So I think what I'm gonna do is if I keep my voice down, then maybe it'll just leave and it will never have to come in here to play. Like many Nintendo franchises before and after it, Star Fox finds itself as a beloved favorite, despite not being very successful and consistently being ignored by the Big N. Shh, I don't want it to know I'm here. Despite that though, it has never stopped the fans from loudly proclaiming how much they love this series, and also how much they hate certain entries. The love around Star Fox has always fascinated me though, mostly because people's favorite games in the franchise are all over the place. Or, well, maybe it's because the games themselves are all over the place. You see, if a bunch of people like different Zelda games, then fine, yeah, sure. It makes sense considering how much each title tackles the same basic principles and unique ideas, but almost always provides the fundamentally same experience at its core. I mean, apparently there are people who unironically love Spirit Tracks, even though there is no war in Ba Sing Se, so who's to prove them to be real, right? On the other hand, Star Fox is truly all over the place. From rail shooter to strategy game, back to rail shooter to 3D action adventure, and then what is mostly a third-person shooter. Star Fox lacks consistency, and yet its fans are loyal. But why? Why do people love Star Fox so dang much when its entries are so erratic? Yet each game has such a devout set of believers that it's almost ideological in nature. Like, instead of Cult of the Lamb, we get Cult of the Fox. Even on the episode about Star Fox Adventures, I spent probably way too much effort trying to analyze the experience from both the lovers and the haters' perspective alike. Even with that, it's fascinating to see how for some, Star Fox Adventures is their personal favorite GameCube game entirely, some of which their favorite game ever, while for others, it marks the decisive death of the series. How are both of those things equally true? No, stop, please, Star Fox Command. I just need more time, I'm not ready. The Nintendo DS, a handheld that I was embarrassed to own because the PSP had better graphics. Yet, here I am, spending my adult life playing catch-up, trying to experience the incredible journeys that I forfeited all those years ago. Real talk though, if you have any Nintendo DS recommendations that aren't the typical first-party Nintendo affair that I'm already probably aware of, then actually, please let me know, because between this and the 3DS, I have a lot of catching up to do. There's some good games there that I really want to play. Yeah, keep getting distracted, forget all about Star Fox. Anyway, a new experimental platform from Nintendo meant a new experimental Star Fox game. Dang it. Nintendo decided to reach out to founder of Q Games and one of the original creators of Star Fox, Dylan Cuthbert, to work on a new project. I've mentioned Dylan before in previous episodes actually, but something that needs to be pointed out here is just how much this man loves Star Fox. He's constantly talking about it in interviews with a fondness, almost like a father talking about their children. Cuthbert was approached by Shigeru Miyamoto himself to work on this title, and as we all know, when High Overlord Shigeru calls, you answer. And you answer knowing that there's probably some creative restriction since it's not being made in-house by Nintendo themselves. This time, yeah, was no different, of course. Nintendo wanted a brand new Star Fox game to explore the technology of the DS with one condition: that this Star Fox game not be a rail shooter. Wait, what the f? Oh, I thought that was the big one. So, yeah, starting right off the bat, Nintendo was adamant that Star Fox had become misinterpreted as a rail shooter. their words, not mine. Miyamoto reminded Cuthbert and team that Star Fox had never been that way, and instead served as a way to test new technologies. Now, he's not entirely wrong, I guess. Like, by a technicality? By this point, Star Fox 2 did exist, but was just never released. That game wasn't a rail shooter basically at all, and served as a strategy game, space shooter hybrid, and for its time would have been pretty cool. However, something I'd like to point out here though, is that by this point in the franchise, 4 games in, the best-selling games in the series were rail shooters. And they weren't just slightly better sales either. Assault was more of a third-person shooter, and it sold half as much as Adventures, which sold half as much as the original SNES version, which sits alongside Star Fox 64 as the 2 best-selling games in the franchise. Across those last 2 non-rail shooter titles, the sales had dropped by 50% each time. The rail shooters were clearly winning, and, well, spoilers, but this trend was about to continue. Now, in all honesty, I actually think the core vision behind Miyamoto's goals for Star Fox is actually cool. To have a franchise that consistently shifts gameplay styles across the same universe could be awesome. The uncertainty could lead to constant surprises. I look at Final Fantasy and the freshness that series consistently could provide over the years. I look at Sabotage Studios, for example, and how The Messenger and Sea of Stars are radically different genres, but take place in the same world, and many fans of both of these games, myself included, are genuinely hoping they tackle another entirely new gameplay style for the next title they make. The problem with Star Fox's execution is that they never really commit to this, so each game just kind of feels like a slight identity crisis. But hey, maybe Star Fox DS will be different. The main focus was to stay away from the rail shooter gameplay, the style that fans had been begging for across multiple games now, and instead return to the basic idea of Star Fox 2. Again, a reminder here, Star Fox 2 had never actually seen the light of day by this point, and the only 2 copies that seemingly did exist in the world were with Nintendo and Q Games. In fact, the similarities to Star Fox 2 is kind of what got a ton of people hyped for Star Fox DS at this point. Think about it. We have a new Star Fox game, headed by Cuthbert himself, often seen as the father of Star Fox, on the DS, which was selling like crazy, built upon the ideas of a well-known but never released previous entry. This was a recipe for insane success. The only thing it needed was to make sure Nintendo put people's eyes on it, and bam! Easy win. So, when would be the absolute worst time to show off a new playable DS game? At the same time they announced the Wii. And when did Nintendo have the first playable demo available? At the same time they announced the Wii. Coverage for the early days of Command are incredibly scarce, and for very obvious reasons. In fact, most development info about the game didn't become available until over 10 years after its release. So few people were paying attention to this Star Fox DS game when a brand new console that was shattering the industry was just around the corner. Interestingly enough, though, the coverage that does exist from that time is incredibly positive. IGN gave the game a 8 out of 10. Nintendo Power dropped a 95 out of 100, claiming, quote, "The combination of classic and new elements makes it the most wholly satisfying Star Fox game yet," end quote. The most wholly satisfying Star Fox game yet? When 64 was out? Wow. Gaming Trend concluded, quote, "The game looks and runs great, controls wonderfully, and is the perfect example of gaming done right on the DS," end quote. I mean, hell, Yahoo really sang its praises, saying, quote, "Combined with fun dogfighting and smart stylus control, this is better action than we deserve in a portable." Holy crap. Wait. Really? I've only ever heard about how bad the game was. I didn't know people liked it. I didn't know it was critically well received. I just thought everyone widely agreed it was the worst game in the series. right then. I think I'm ready. I think I can do this. Star Fox command.
Show yourself.
Star Fox Command appears to pick up right where Assault left off. The Aperoids have been defeated, Peppy Hare becomes the new Cornerian general, and the entirety of Star Fox has completely split up. Wait, really? Okay. I mean, I don't hate this premise, but okay, but hear me out. We haven't made it anywhere yet in this story, but we really need to already fix something here. You can't open a sequel with time passing by like that. Fox kicking Crystal out of the team and then proceeding to question all of his life choices, Falco becoming addicted to the thrill of the hunt, Slippy getting a fiancé, and Crystal just disappearing with no knowledge of her whereabouts? You can't just dump that on a player. This is a lot, actually. There's so much stuff happening there. In fact, there's so much stuff that it should be its own story. Yeah, this recap should exist and all, but it should be playing for the next game, not this one. Or maybe after a time skip from the events that we played just now? Like, are you kidding me? A plot about the Star Fox team breaking apart piece by piece as slight rifts in the crew form as they realize that they're at different life goals in this point of their lives after putting themselves in danger so many times? Is that not interesting enough to be its own plot? Seriously? How? This is such an interesting idea that's never explored. Even in this game, we never touch on this really. Like, what really happened here? What caused this divide? This is such a tease. This backstory that they set up, it's genuinely interesting, and it's probably the most human and relatable plot of the entire game. How do I know that without having played it yet? Someone spoiled it on PictoChat for me. Our new villain this time around, thankfully, isn't Andros, as would be Nintendo tradition if this was any other franchise, but no. The ultimate threat to the Lilat system is currently fish. I mean, angry fish, but they actually do look really cool. These are the anglers, who stem from the depths of Venom's oceans. Okay, so just first, real quick question. Is everything from Venom evil, apparently? That they just apparently have amassed an army so strong already that they're a genuine threat to the entire Lilat system? Can we just, like, not nuke the entire planet by this point? Has Corneria not learned from this? I mean, the fact that they just did this, though, between the time of Assault and now, I gotta give them credit. I mean, these fish are quick. Something I do appreciate here, though, is that despite the anglers being a new species serving as the antagonist, Andros is still involved slightly. It's not like he's the secret villain or something like Ganondorf in Wind Waker. Oh, spoilers. But instead, the angler's potential and desires stems from Andros's manipulation of the Venom environment. I actually wish Nintendo would do more of stuff like this. Like, instead of Ganondorf yet again, let's have the next Zelda be a villain that rises up due to the effects that Ganondorf had on the world, or a specific race of creatures that misguides their aggression and retaliation towards Hyrule as a whole when it was aimed at Ganondorf. Okay, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. But Bowser also doesn't need to be this. Okay, hold on. Star Fox Command opens with our boy Fox setting out to deal with this new threat. In order to do that, though, first, Rob64 has to start explaining all of the mechanics of the game to us before we've even had a chance to play. Ah, yes. It's almost like I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about yet, but please keep going. Rob eventually encourages Fox to regroup members of the team, and thus our quest to get the band back together begins. Our first member of Focus? Slippy Toad. Hell yeah, dude. All you Slippy haters out there probably getting pissed right now that my boy here is the first pick on the draft. Dude, you get him, Toad. You the man. Apparently, by this point, Slippy is engaged to someone, which is, I mean, it's kind of awesome. Good for him! Fox tries to convince Slippy to come back and assist in the fight, but Slippy would rather lay low and not engage in any high-risk fighting. So, Fox says pretty please, and one chapter later, Slippy's in the gang. That was easy. I guess the first order of business should be to head to Ficina and deal with Starwolf. Because yeah, of course they're in the game. I would say that it's unfortunate that the theme song for them isn't that insanely beautiful track from Assault, but honestly, it's back to the 64 version, which is equally as nuts, so we still get a win here. Dude, come on! I can't, you've got to be, I can't get him! Come on! I can't even hit anybody, never mind beat him within the time limit. Fighting Starwolf is not easy. In fact, each Starwolf encounter might honestly be some of the hardest boss fights of the entire game. This isn't just a me thing either, like it's not just me having a struggle here. Even the programmer who coded the AI for Wolf, Leon, and Panther said, quote, "I also really enjoyed writing the AI for the Starwolf team, although I do feel like they ended up being a bit too good at evading the player in the final game," end quote. After a lot of patience and struggle, eventually Starwolf is beaten, and they fly off like Team Rocket blasting off again. Now it's finally time we get our third party member to play as, and Falco was said to be in the area, so naturally, we get Lucy to join. I'm sorry, who? Who the heck is this chick? Why are we getting girl Miss Peppy over here? Excuse me, miss, you weren't the bright blue pheasant I was looking for, so I'm gonna need you to hop your ass on out of here. Come to find out, this is Lucy Hare, Peppy's daughter. Hold on, is Peppy a bit of a deadbeat? Because he's never mentioned her before. Also, this whole Peppy having a daughter surprise to also be playable in the game totally feels like a bad 4chan leak that would have been predicted. It honestly feels pretty fan servicey for sure. In fact, this feeling will continue to be a staple of Star Fox Command, as every character you could possibly imagine, and many that you couldn't, are suddenly playable, as well as they have some sort of connection to seemingly every ending in the game. Every main Star Fox character has ties with someone else, many of which new, who show up, say hello, and then leave. Well, anyway, what better way to return to the story about the Anglers than with Andrew Oinkeny? Dude, okay, what are you doing here? We're over the whole monkey plot. We're on to fish now, my guy. Did you die in assault? Are we just gonna pretend that didn't happen? Is the secret to immortality after all these years of searching just denial? He's just kinda here, has a fine boss fight, and then is out of the way. I can't tell if the fact he's so inconsequential, if that's an intended dig at him from the developers, or if poor Andrew over here is just cursed to be inconvenient at best. Oh, and hey, there's Falco now. I'm glad you showed up. Well, alright. Now we have 3 of the original team. We're just missing Peppy and or Crystal, depending on how they want to swing this story. Alright, so we have Fox, Slippy, and Falco all together here. And I think there's only one thing that makes sense to do when you have all of these characters side by side. Let's go save Slippy's girlfriend. What even is this plot? We're only an hour and a half in at this point, and we're just bouncing around all over the place. It feels more like Command is distracted with introducing and showing off as many characters as possible than it's really aimed at focusing on to create a cohesive narrative here. Though, I mean, I have to at least give some credit that Slippy's fiancé is on Aquas, a water stage, and though the Blue Marine is basically non-existent here, all of the R-Wings can now fly in the water at full capacity, so hey, an unobtrusive water level that doesn't make players want to rip out their hair. It looks like Nintendo can do it after all. We can also now play as Amanda, Slippy's fiancé, and since she isn't a pilot, she gets a submarine to drive. It's not the Blue Marine, but somehow still shoots lasers and is capable of intense speed and evasive maneuvers. It's so funny to me that this little thing just looks like such a rinky-dinky thing here, and yet Amanda kind of owns, actually. But the level itself, though, there's not even a boss fight here. You just kind of clear out all the enemies and then done. Mission completed. I mean, woo, I guess. Now you might be wondering why I'm just kind of skipping over so many of the details here and basically just pointing out when a new character shows up. But that's because that's the plot so far. That's basically all that's been happening. It would be really nice if by now, this deep in the game, we had a villain setup of some sort. Oh wait, we do, yeah, the Anglers. Did you even remember them? Because I didn't. Where the hell are they? This is partly why I mentioned that things felt fan servicey earlier, because so much of Star Fox Command's narrative is just someone's girlfriend or daughter or random side character shows up, says hi, and that's intended to be enough of a plot device to keep moving forward, I guess? That's not story, though. It's a set of events, sure, but that doesn't inherently give it plot. I'd love to talk more about the story that's happening in this route, but there's nothing to say other than what I've kind of already commented on. I mean, yeah, there's still more game to play and all, but it's not like something cool's gonna happen, like finding out that Crystal joined Starwolf or something of all things. Oh, neat. This is where we officially come to find out that Fox had forced Crystal to leave the team because he was worried about her safety. Okay. I mean, it's a bit odd considering the whole Aperoid thing only happened like a game ago, but whatever. Again, that could have been way more interesting and more humanized if, I don't know, maybe we played those events rather than just getting a recap of the story at the start. You know, that story that never happened, that we're just kind of told did. Alright, whatever. Crystal just kind of up and joins the Star Fox team anyway, again, after having that whole Starwolf thing not really go anywhere. I mean, I guess she's just kind of rebounding back. It's like a rebounding rebound. Oh, neat. After a battle through a ton of the Angler's forces through Sector Z, the team makes their way to the asteroid belt to confront the Emperor Angler once and for all. Or at least this giant serpent machine he made called the Arrowhead. One decent boss fight later, and I guess that's it? We saved the Lilat system? Okay, well, I guess the other Star Fox games did kind of behave similarly with multiple routes, but wow, this one's pretty abrupt, huh? At least the entire Star Fox crew is back together, and we even get a cool radio transmission from Peppy himself. Apparently, Panther is now heartbroken that Crystal returned back to Star Fox, poor guy, and the scene starts to wrap up and we get this cool outro sequence as we get a bit of an appendix to the story. Peace has returned, and Crystal up and leaves to join Starwolf again. What? Why? Where did that come from? Are we rebounding the rebound's rebound to the rebound? And that's it. That's the end of the Star Fox Command story. Well, at least one part of it, that is. You see, Star Fox, the original here, had 3 different routes you could take to get 3 potential endings. Star Fox 64 decided to expand upon this at least a little bit more by having a little more of a non-linear variation with only a couple real endings. But Star Fox Command here decides to take that to the next level, with 9 different endings, each with their own dialogue trees, their own different paths, their own different characters, all with a different ending. So you know what that means? 8 more to go. So, as you've been able to see so far, Star Fox Command doesn't quite play like every other Star Fox game. No, I'm not talking like how adventure is on foot or anything, but it does take a page out of Rareware's book and combines R-Wing play alongside a second genre. In this case, strategy. You're essentially split between 2 scenes of gameplay across 2 screens, kind of clever. The battle map and the R-Wing sections. You have a limited number of turns before the Angler forces wipe you out, so the goal for each stage is to kill everything before it kills you. This breaks down into essentially 4 objectives. First is to make sure that no enemies or missiles ever hit Great Fox. If anything at all touches that ship, it's over. Game over. You restart the whole stage. Second is fighting the enemies you're attempting to intercept. The specific enemies can vary wildly from one-ship dogfights to a pod of 10 enemies that can all get destroyed at once and one well-placed bomb and basically everything else in between. Third are these missiles. So, do you remember that secret in Star Fox 64 where you have to hit all the rings to go through the warp to the secret area? Okay, now take that and add shooting a missile to it, and that's the entire mechanic. You have to hit every single ring. Miss a single one, and it's over. You fail, and the missile will move closer to Great Fox. Fourth are these bases. It's basically just fighting the enemies like I mentioned before, but there's a mothership in the middle that, after you destroy all of the necessary enemies, you then have to go through some more rings and barrel roll into the mothership to breach through it and destroy the entire floating fortress. Wow, this is equal parts awesome and really stupid. Everything in Command revolves around these 4 objectives while balancing the strategy board. It's a relatively simple foundation that, if provided a decent variance, could work incredibly well. Now, back to these branching paths here that I'm mentioning now, because, well, you kind of probably intuited that already from before if you haven't played the game. Each and every route will start you on Corneria again, where you're at the base of the branches, so to speak, and oh, wait! The stage is different now? Oh, that's cool. So hey, yeah, after I beat the first route, Corneria changes, it seems. The stage is slightly harder, and you have, less time and less turns to use, so that's kind of fun. This is actually seriously pretty cool. It's like a form of adaptive difficulty where repeat stages are tougher the more progress you've made. Does it do this each and every route I complete? That'd be kind of neat. For this second route, I decided to see what was going on with Falco, and the story changes wildly from the first playthrough. This time around, Falco is out and exploring, and never actually makes it back to join up with the Star Fox crew. Instead, he assists the Cornerian army with some other battles and meets up with some fan favorites along the way. Two in particular are Bill and Kat from Star Fox 64. Yeah, how cool is that? Like, yeah, sure, Command totally comes off a bit fanfiction-y here, having all the characters popping in and out with their cameo appearances, but the fact that each one also plays mechanically different from one another kinda helps to serve as a nice pacing shift for the player. It's also that one little extra variance I was mentioning prior that makes the simple foundation work incredibly well, since you might have to handle each objective basically the same way across every character, but the direct interactions from your fingers to the events on screen are different because of their unique quirks in gameplay. This can be smaller but powerful blasts, multi-target lock-ons, to rapid-fire attacks, and plenty of other combinations. With this route, Falco will have to help solve a whole separate issue than what was happening in the first path we did, since this time, it's happening in a whole other part of the Lilat system. Falco finds out about an entirely different threat from the Anglers. He finds Pigma, still in his synthetic form from Assault, who totally died in Assault again, by the way. Are we just gonna pretend that like Assault never happened and everyone's back? This time, Pigma's attempting to exploit the distraction of the Anglers to get his vengeance on all of the Star Fox crew. Pigma himself is a real threat to the Lilat system, and as a whole, dealing with him is rather critical. The boss fight is also pretty interesting for the most part, as you have to rotate sectors of his body to match certain colors to make him vulnerable. Match the wrong colors or take too long, and he'll respond with an attack according to that particular pattern. It's pretty simple, sure, and Falco, while not being there for the Angler finale, does help save the day in his own unique way. So naturally, the ending has Falco completely ostracize himself from the Star Fox crew because he missed out on being a hero and starts his own new Star Falco crew. Ah, I see why people hate the ending so much. This really is super out of character for Falco. I mean, I know he likes to be the center of attention and everything, but to go into such a depressive episode over that is just straight out of a bad soap opera. It's actually kind of funny because of how stupid it is. Also, who's this Dash guy at the end that they added in? Like, who is this man who just showed up? Oh, and we get credits this time? I wonder why I didn't get credits after the first playthrough. Anyway, I'm just not sure what to make of Command yet. It's just not clicking just yet. I haven't hit that flow state that I have with basically every other Arwing focused Star Fox game. Like, this deep into the game, it should be really working now. I should be getting really excited, but I'm not. And the fact that there are 7 more endings to go through, that should be exciting, but I think I'm actually scared. Okay, so, Route 3. You know what this means. Time for another new Corneria. Oh, this is the same as last time. Ah, well, looks like it's definitely not new after each ending. A bit of a bummer, but oh well. I mean, not that big of a deal. We haven't really talked all that much about the gameplay though, so hey, how about we do that, huh? Something unique to Star Fox Command is that basically every button on the DS is fire. Yeah, like every single one of them. Left on the D-pad, fire. The A button, fire. R, yep. Down on the D-pad, Y, L, you guessed it, all of them fire your attack. Now, you might then wonder, how the heck do you do everything else that I've been seeing on screen? Now that is a great question. Well, that is if you forget that it's a relatively early DS game, in which case, then you know the answer. This right here. This is how you do everything. Want a boost? You double tap the top part of the screen. Do you want a break? Same thing, but on the bottom half of the screen. You barrel roll by spinning this all around. You drop bombs with this. Most importantly, all of your aiming is done with this. Basically, the only thing this doesn't do is make the game fun. Like, what am I doing here? This gameplay is so mindless. We're on the final encounter of the second stage of Route 3. Things like should be starting to pick up in diverse gameplay here. What is going on here? What is the point? It just feels like every encounter is like a WarioWare micro game, but it's more of like if WarioWare had like 5 of the same micro game, and then it just repeated over and over and over and over again. It's so mindless that it's practically exhausting. And it's a shame here because some of the story scenarios, while completely ridiculous and outright hilariously cheesy at times, are a bit fun though. Granted, I have absolutely no idea which ending is canon, and I really don't know what is going on basically at all. And I mean, maybe it's the first one that was actually really canon. I really hope not. That was kind of dull if it was. But if you take it with the understanding that all but one of these endings are just kind of fun side story what-if scenarios, then yeah, I guess they could be a fun time. And with that, that's how I'm going to approach this. I know one of these has to be the true ending, so I'm just going to have fun with these as I go. Like this route, for example, that we're on. It follows Fox and Slippy just like normal, but when Lucy Hare pops in and then would normally have left, you instead follow and play as her. Playing this side arc while we know that Star Fox is off and doing their own thing is really cool. It's like you get the fullest context of everyone's perspective in this massive war that's going on that supposedly spans across an entire star system. It reminds me of Fire Emblem Three Houses, where playing through all 4 potential stories, seeing all perspectives, angles, and emotions really sells how complicated war really is. It takes a plot that would normally just be good versus bad, and maturely dissects the complexities and nuances behind such atrocities. It informs the player that sometimes a decision isn't made because it's right, or because it's even good, but because it's the least terrible. It doesn't just inform them though, it instead puts those decisions directly into their own hands to deal with as the consequences of their own actions. Now, Command doesn't do anything nearly that impactful, but it's the same principle at the end of the day. As we follow Lucy, we'll stumble upon a few others along the way, such as Amanda, eventually Kat, and finally Crystal. Yeah, I guess this is a bit of a girl power route, and it's honestly pretty cool. You basically have the representation of every Star Fox member through their love interests or family relationship. Specifically, seeing more of Kat is a highlight for me, as we get a little more insight into this character that we know is a bit overly confident and slightly self-centered based on the interactions we had in Star Fox 64. But we also see more of the team-based side of her, as she seems to drop some of her harsh exterior in favor of being supportive of her allies. At the end of the day, it's definitely a bit of a silly story, but it's fine. It's definitely very upbeat and a joyful tale, with even Crystal and Fox making amends, along with this kind of cute shot of Peppy and Lucy thinking back on their wife and mother Vivian. All in all, it's a pretty feel-good and insanely opposite to the depression story that we saw from Falco's ending last run. I'm sorry, what? We're having fun now? Yeah, I think it's starting to click. So we like Command now? I think so. Okay. It just didn't seem like you were having fun that too long ago, but it's okay, things change. I'm a team player, you know? I just want to make sure that you and me, that we're both on the same page, that's all. Give me a little heads up next time, though. Yeah, it's kind of starting to be a good time all of a sudden. By this point, I've been playing for like 3 to 4 hours or so, and I think I'm finally hitting that flow state I was hoping for. The strategies are coming into place, and the decisions I'm making are feeling clever as I see the patterns behind the enemy's moves and actions. I'm piecing together the strengths of each character, knowing now who to put up against what types of enemies in battle and who to send towards missiles or to go intercept something else. Who's best to double back and protect Rob 64 and who to send off to flank on their own around mothership locations. I finally realized just how good barrel rolling is in this game. It isn't just to deflect attacks, there's a real risk-reward mechanic going on here. Yes, you still do deflect all the blasts coming your way, but for each attack that you do this to, you also gain a couple seconds on your timer. That timer is shared amongst all characters, so if you put yourself in a risky position in front of a line of fire and start to barrel roll through all of the blasts, you can really start to build up your timer again without spending too much time searching for the little time boost resource around certain stages and wasting your time. It took a little while, but the mechanics really are starting to all come together, and I'm seeing a bit more of what Command is capable of. It's been a bit of a slog to get here, but I'm seriously starting to have a really good time. I think it's also time I stopped saying that damn word. This route is also pretty awesome because it ends up reuniting the Star Fox crew. It's a bit repetitive from the last route, as the first half is basically the same, but instead of sticking with Lucy the whole way through, you follow Peppy after Lucy successfully defends Corneria. Peppy ends up joining up with Fox, Falco, and Slippy, and they position themselves to aim right at the heart of the threat, the Emperor Angler. What? Look at these guys running all over the place. Keep running, boys. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. There's a lot more enemy variety this time around, and it seems to make things far more interesting. The banter between all the Star Fox characters is pretty nostalgic as well now. There's also this segment where a ghost Andross shows up, and you gotta shoot this thing's ass to get a secret weapon. All right. Well, yeah, that's plot. Eventually, you make your way to Venom yet again, but this time, it's a bit different. Before Andross died, he was trying to clear the oceans to become habitable for his new empire. He found a way to do so, but was never able to execute on it. After finding the device and dropping it into Venom, we can now directly attack the anglers at their home base, Under the Waves. With Fox, Falco, Peppy, and Slippy ready to take it all on, we dive right in. The final boss is actually two different encounters. The first is Arrowhead, the same boss as the first route, but definitely a bit more visually interesting here as you kind of see him move through all the tunnels as the boss kind of pops in and out of them like a Scooby-Doo episode. The final encounter is with Emperor Angler himself, which is easily the hardest fight of the game. It's a bit of an expansion on the Andross fight from 64, and even has this whole section of bars and pillars to get in your way like the hallway before Andross, or I guess similar to the descent to the Aperoid Queen. All in all, it's a really fun encounter. Except for the fact that I keep hitting these beams even though I'm so confident I dodged it. And the shaking from the DS from hitting the buttons to fire just makes it so much more annoying. Even with that though, overall it's a fun fight. It just happens to borrow far too much from past Andross encounters, but using Slippy to save the day is just so satisfying. I know everybody hates him, but I love that little guy. The story ends with all of the Star Fox crew voting to disband the group, and Fox pledges to live the remainder of his life with Crystal. They even have this, I think, super cute shot at the end of Fox wearing glasses just like his father, and his son Marcus on his shoulders. We even get one more shot of Marcus in the future, leading a brand new Star Fox crew with Slippy's son, Peppy's granddaughter, and they are mentored by Falco himself. This has to be the canon ending. Like, I know there's 5 more of these things because there's 9 total, but this just has the most closure by far. Like, no story so far that we've gone through has just wrapped up everything so nicely. There's been character growth and development, and this has just been so perfect. In fact, I'm calling it. I am so confident that this is the canon ending that I'm gonna invoke the name of Lord Miyamoto himself. Let an ancient spirit come in and slap me upside the head if I'm wrong. Nice. So this is it. I called it. Look at that. Who would have thought that I'd be able to call the ending so soon early up? Seriously? How is this not the one? This is like so perfect. Are you kidding me? Ugh. Well, anyway, Route 5. Hey, is this Corneria different again? Yo, it is. That's awesome. So, okay, I guess it really does change based on how many endings you've seen, and more than once. So, hey, I can't wait to see more of this. This version of Corneria is a bit tougher, as it gives you the exact amount of turns available to complete it. One wasted turn, and it's game over. Now, it's important to note that outside the first playthrough, you can actually do any of these last routes in whatever order you'd like. So just because I'm saying this is Route 5 Just note that it simply means that it just so happens to be the ending I got on this particular playthrough, my 5th one. I didn't really have a plan going through all these endings in any particular order, but I did use a walkthrough to lay out all of the necessary dialogue choices to get to each specific ending. Normally, I'd hate doing this at the risk of ruining the experience, and it's not how I typically operate in these retrospective episodes. But the thing is, so many of these endings require retreading so much old ground, and not every unchosen decision leads to a new ending. You can pick a dialogue option you haven't before halfway through, only to somehow then get brought back to a route you've already done and get a repeat ending, wasting hours of your life. At the same time, you often need to pick the same choices multiple times in a row, only to, an hour later, make one final decision to bring a new branch to get a new ending. In order to save a ton of time and a ton of frustration, I did follow a guide to map out the decisions I needed to make to get to each option. I did do them randomly, but if you plan to follow through and play Command with me now, I'd recommend doing the same. It's just not worth going through the repeats so much. By this point, I am still having a bit of fun with Command. I'm starting to get some of the new levels kind of kicked in and sprinkled in with a bunch of the older levels that you're kind of playing over and over again, so it kind of allows you to get a little bit of a sprinkle of new things while being able to optimize the old levels you've done, and really expands and makes that replayability that Star Fox is famous for really fun. It's a lot like 64, where you kind of want to go back and do better and get better scores and everything, so you can unlock other routes and medals and like the on-foot multiplayer. Well, actually, shoot, thinking about it, you don't seem to get anything better for playing the levels well in Command? Alright, scratch that. It's nothing like 64, because of course it's not. In this route, we take Fox back to protect Corneria, and oh, who's this? Oh, this is that Dash guy from the earlier ending. Yeah. But he's a monkey in the Cornerian army? I thought the monkeys were all aligned with Andros on this. Is my Star Fox lore not right? Well, I mean, hey, I think it's kind of cool seeing that it's maybe not so cut and dry in this universe. Neat. It's kind of cool having him on the team, and there he goes. Well, all right. Well, yeah, that was fun while it lasted. But who cares about that, because we get to play as Wolf now, baby! Hell yeah! It is about time! Honestly, Star Fox Command can be hated by fans all it wants, but this, playing as Wolf O'Donnell, boys, this is plus 2 stars on the rating alone. And every time you play as him, it's the Star Wolf theme from the N64 games, and oh my god, it's so beautiful. It's perfect. It's Foxy, baby. All I ever wanted in my life was 2 things: Legend of Dragoon remake and to play as Wolf O'Donnell, boys. So we are halfway to paradise. All right, let's see. So Fox would probably be the best for this encounter. Or I could just pick Wolf again, baby. There's nothing better than playing as Wolf, and actually, nah, that's actually a pretty good enough statement. But look at this boss fight where you're Wolf and you beat this thing by shooting it so that way it aims down into the lava of Solar and it melts. What a badass way to beat this thing, huh? And then Wolf leaves. He's gone. We didn't get to even say goodbye. It ended so fast. I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna really miss him. Ah, well. Something kind of cool that does happen, though, is that Dash Bowman joins the crew back again. Come to find out, he's a big fan of Star Fox and wants to follow in their footsteps. Same, dude. I feel that. I think it's so cute that we have our own little fan club. It's so nice. It's kind of also cool seeing a monkey character that isn't trying to set up a base of operations on Venom to rule as an evil dictator. This story doesn't actually have too much interesting happening. It's mostly a retread of the 4th route and has you go back to finding that secret Andros device from before. What is kind of cool is that if you choose dash to fight the bioweapon, the ghost of Andros will actually instruct the bioweapon to stop attacking when you defeat it, and Andros declares that Dash is worthy of carrying his legacy. Bummer for Andros though, since Dash is literally a one-man Star Fox fan club, so the likelihood of him being a ruthless evil dictator is probably pretty low. Once you do get that device again, you drop it in the Venom Ocean and take on the Anglers once again, and what? James McCloud? This man just showing up dropping the triple dot like he's Red from Pokemon? What is going on here? Hello? Hello? Is anyone gonna acknowledge this? Fox, dude, your dad, he's literally right there. Or maybe he's not. And I'm just going crazy. And nope, you can pick him. You can play as him. You can play as James McCloud. He's there. But why? I don't want to undersell. This is awesome. This is something really neat here. You know, like, I love James. Trust your instincts and all that. But why? No one ever acknowledges James here. He just shows up, you play as him against the final boss, and then he's gone. Not a single nudge, a notice, anything to reference his existence. What a weird way to bring that character back into the story. Well, anyway, you fight Emperor Angler again, and Fox and Falco assist Dash in redeeming his family name, since he wanted to undo the legacy of his grandfather Andros. Neat, this whole story was a redemption arc. That's kind of cool. Or it would be cool if it wasn't for the fact that Dash basically just becomes an evil dictator anyway and raises an army on Venom to invade the Lilat system, thus redoing everything Andros did. So sweet. I'm really glad that one was a waste of my f***ing time. Well, that one was a bit of a bummer, but maybe Route 6 will be better. I'm still having a bit of fun with the gameplay overall. It's about at this time where you really start to feel like you're able to optimize each encounter. We've gone through over half the routes now, so we've basically played all the characters more than likely. We've seen all of the environments, and we've fought most of the enemies. It feels like we're officially at the whole replay the route to get gold medals on every stage to unlock the on-foot and multiplayer kind of phase of this game. And it's super satisfying. Nailing that perfect bomb to one-shot the entire encounter no longer feels like boring gameplay, but more like a tactical nuke of skill and precision. I don't feel lucky that I did it, I feel skilled. I really didn't expect to have such a flip of finding this game so super boring to the start, to having it all just kind of click and finding it insanely satisfying. And then this route ends with Fox and Falco defeating Pigma again, only to have Fox go into an alcoholic depression and become an F-Zero racer. You know you don't have to be stupid every time I say something nice about you, right? Okay, ending 7. And by this point, Corneria still hasn't changed again, so I'm gonna guess that that's the only 3 variations we're ever gonna get. I just hope to Arceus that the last ending we just saw is not the canon ending, because at this point, that's probably my largest driving factor of continuing to play. Like, that last route kind of muddied a little bit. Like, I need to see each and every one of these 9 endings so that way I can try and guess which one's the real canon. AKA, the sunk cost fallacy has won again. But, Rob64, can I ask you a question, my guy? Just a small inquiry, my dude. A simple query, my brother. Why are you still giving me a tutorial on how to barrel roll into motherships and how to chase after missiles every single time?
Hi, Zerbraxi. I see that this is your 149th mothership, so let me tell you how to destroy this one, since it's the same as the 148 you've done.
Oh my god, I really hope you tell me the same thing again next time too. That'd be so helpful. I gotta say, this far into the game, and drawing on the map is actually still incredibly satisfying, actually. Trying to min-max the exact perfect line to hit a pickup and then an enemy in the same route is, oh, so fun. It's a completely player-controlled mechanic that makes you feel super clever when it's pulled off. In general, a lot of Star Fox Command is actually pretty neat. But when does this game end, though? This route requires you to basically do the same 3/4 of the 5th route with Starwolf, and I've just played so many of these damn maps, like 3 or 4 times already now. It's not even like the level design is bad or anything. In fact, a lot of the environments look really good for the DS. Like, insanely detailed. But geez, man. Because some encounters are like 15 to 30 seconds, it just means that more of these fights happen, which in turn means you see the environments more and more, and Star Fox feels like a grind is just not a phrase I ever imagined would ever leave my lips. But here we are. It's agonizingly dull by this point. It's kind of like Metroid 2 and grinding the Metroids. Like, It should be cooler than it is. Like, imagine making it this many endings in and not having a plan beforehand, where you might have accidentally doubled through a tree or two and gotten extra repeat endings by this point, just because you pressed different dialogue options and assumed that would lead you to another ending, but only to be circled back to branches of a tree you've already completed. Except for the fact that this route is totally worth all the frustration, because the final level involves you playing as Wolf, Leon, Panther, and Crystal as a fully established Star Wolf team to become the heroes and save the day for their own personal glory. It's actually awesome, and Panther and Leon play so unlike any other character in the game, but you only get to play as them for like 5 minutes total, since you'll only ever do a few encounters each with either character. Panther's super slow fire rate but insanely high damage shots is so satisfying, and Leon's ability to just spam lock onto everything like this is so funny, because you can just like autopilot your way to victory. I really do love how this route ends with this final stage here having Starwolf be their super slimy selves as they cheat their way to victory and glory. It's so good. It starts off agonizingly slow as you retread old ground for the 3rd or 4th time again, but the final level makes the whole thing worth it. So then why does the ending have the entire Lilat system apparently now hating Crystal because she left Star Fox to join Starwolf, and now she renames herself to Cursed of all things? Good lord. That is cringy as hell, by the way. Cursed? Really? She even bumps into Fox on some faraway planet years later who doesn't even recognize her. What a weird way to end this, where the boys of Starwolf get all of this spotlight, but Crystal just gets beat up. In fact, Crystal in general just kind of gets ripped off over and over and over again in this game. The writers completely undid all of the personality traits from Adventures and Assault and throw Crystal's character to and fro to make everything seem much more like high school drama. I made this comment in my Assault episode as well, but for a character who is loved by so many fans, she still now, after 3 games, has never really had a single moment to shine and exemplify herself. She has such a following, but it's clearly not her narrative significance that drives any of it. Rareware, Namco, Q Games, they've all butchered her potential. In fact, the only game that seems to be consistent with her personality and actually lets her shine as an awesome character is Dinosaur Planet, of all things. And if it wasn't for that discovered prototype, we wouldn't even have had that. Now, quick note, many will be quick to point out that Crystal's kind of emo edgelord self-named persona of Cursed is just not the real thing. In fact, the original Japanese translation, she names herself Krizoa, which, sure, makes a lot more sense. Wait, no it doesn't, it's still stupid. She named herself after gods. So all we've traded here is that she went from emo edgelord to narcissist. Whoa. In fact, the English translation is potentially one of the largest reasons this game is so hated by so many fans. The writing feels laughably amateur, and if you dig deeper, it's because the translation added so much melodrama that is completely absent from the original Japanese script. Why? No one really seems to know, actually. So I would love to really deep dive into the translation issues and everything. Like, I would love to provide, really good examples on why some things were changed and not, but I don't care at all. I'm not having fun. This is boring. This was good for a little while, but my God, it just gets so dull again. If it wasn't for the fact that I have some weird obsession with talking about video games, and I've convinced myself that if I sit into a room by myself alone and talk into a camera with microphones and lights and everything, if it wasn't for the fact that I was doing an actual retrospective episode on a Nintendo game I've never played before, and I've convinced myself that doing all of this is somehow productive now, if it wasn't for that, I would have stopped a long time ago. And the thing is, I can't now though. I can't, and it's not sunk cost fallacy. I have to get all the endings, because if I don't, someone's gonna leave a comment that says, well, you didn't get all 9 endings, so you can't have an opinion on the game. Well, buddy, friendo, old pal, bucko, while you were thinking about leaving that comment, I went and finished Grapple Dog, so yeah, that's where I'm at. I am so sick of Star Fox Command, I'd rather just, in the middle of this video, talk about Grapple Dog. Which is fun, by the way. It's a really good 2D platformer where... This one is quick and easy. The 8th route follows Slippy as he breaks away from Fox early on to go protect his fiancée Amanda on Aquas. It's a really short route and mostly just stars Slippy and Amanda as a duo as they protect Aquas from invaders as Fox and everyone else goes to handle Emperor Angler. It's pretty cute to have a fully Slippy-focused storyline here, and having this ending with Slippy being married with his kids is just so heartwarming. But nothing prepared me for just how damn adorable that old Grandpa Slippy would be with his hat, dude. Oh my god, just look at that little man. That's the cutest thing I've seen in a long while. And then, we're here. The 9th ending. Can you tell I want this over with? Well, this last route is a bit more complicated than I was expecting it to be. Oh my god, no it's not, please. This is easily the hardest route in the entire game. It's like everybody gets their moment to shine as almost everyone shows up in some capacity. It's a pretty long and thorough run too, as you bounce all over the Lilat system here. Almost every key area is visited in some capacity, sometimes briefly, and other times for a few missions in a row. Even Crystal in this route works out decently well. Her original hostility towards Fox feels warranted as he removed her from the team. Sure, his intentions were kind and to protect her, but in turn, it attacked her pride, not only as a pilot, but as a person. Just because he cared for her and she was a girl didn't stop her from being a valuable member of the team or defenseless. The unspoken reconciliation between the two works really well about halfway through the story as they focus on their common goal at hand only to eventually handle their true feelings later once everything's settled. This path is actually really good, and it reminds me of how cool things like the 4th and the 5th route was. Command has a lot of great things going for it, but it's completely marred by a few upsetting problems. The translation, which absolutely makes this dialogue unbearable at times, as it feels more like a fan fiction written by a 12-year-old just discovering emotion for the first time, rather than a professional writing team. The insane repetition of the encounters and the lack of meaningful enemy variety, coupled with the small scope but constant string of fights, makes this a grindy Star Fox game, which is a feat that's kind of impressive in its own sick and twisted way. And third, it's just how many damn endings there are! If Star Fox Command stuck with more of a really great few stories and offered more variety within those plot lines, then so much of this would have been better. It also would have made the game so much more digestible and forgivable for players who don't really click with its fully stylus-based control or dislike the strategy element. At least they would have gotten some truly decent gameplay and a few really interesting plots along the way. Or Nintendo and Q Games could have given us just one story and all of the events leading all to the Star Fox team breaking up and fighting the anglers like I mentioned about an hour ago in this very episode. But that's just not what we got now, is it? And there are some really cool little ideas here. Star Fox Command, as of this recording, remains the only Star Fox game to ever have online multiplayer when it launched. Even now, it has download play, so you can play with friends as long as you have 3 other people who willingly want to play Star Fox Command with you. Hello? Anyone? Mom? There's also this really cool feature where you can record your own voice and apply it to the characters to completely replace their gibberish speak with your own. How cool is that? Instead, you have things like me trying to push through this 9th route where cool story beats are still occurring, like how Dash at the end finally gets his redemption arc and truly undoes all of the damage that his grandfather Andros did all those years ago. You even do get a little nod for beating every story ending by getting this alternate title music. I mean, it's not as cool as unlocking our foot in Star Fox 64 multiplayer, but it's still something. It's just such a weird mess of a game that's so conflicting because in some ways it's truly fine and honestly really great, and in others it's agonizingly frustrating to play. But when you read about the development and you hear from multiple people on the original team about how this was the most fun they've ever had making a game in their career, it's like, yeah, I'm really glad you had a great time and all. I'm so happy you had like peak enjoyment in your creation, But as someone who also paid for this is not what I wanted or really what feels like should have been delivered. I know this is mostly hated by Star Fox fans, that Command is despised by many. And when I got to this episode, the amount of warnings I got was insane. But I also know that there are some of you who absolutely adore this game. And I do see why. I wasn't messing around when I said I was having so much fun earlier. I meant it. I was having such a joyous time. Trim the fat and focus on that, and Command would have been received way better by fans. It was beloved critically, but so many Star Fox loyalists just really didn't want this. We get 9 endings, most of which suck or are just completely forgettable, but with a few, such as this 9th one, which offers so much closure and camaraderie that it truly feels like it could have been the blueprint for a full story on its own. This is a story I wanted to experience. This feels like a true Star Fox plot. This feels like a true canon ending. Which brings us to this. This is the reveal, the unraveling. This whole time, all I've been pushing for is just to find out, what is the true ending? What is the canon ending for Star Fox Command that all future sequels are gonna run off from? This is it. This is, it's behind here. I can't wait, I gotta go.
We need your help, Star Fox.